The AI revolution isn't coming. It's already here, and it's reshaping the job market faster than any technological shift in history. Politicians keep promising new opportunities in green energy and tech. The reality on the ground looks a lot messier. Millions of white-collar and blue-collar jobs are already disappearing, and the new roles being created require skills that most current workers simply don't have yet. This is the great reskilling crisis, a quiet economic earthquake that could reshape society more dramatically than the Industrial Revolution did. And here's the twist almost nobody talks about. The honest numbers actually show more jobs being created than destroyed. That should be good news. It might be the most dangerous part of this entire story. The scale of job displacement underway right now is genuinely unprecedented. AI systems can now perform tasks that used to require years of education and hands-on experience. Lawyers, accountants, programmers, radiologists, translators, customer service representatives, and even creative professionals are watching their roles get automated or significantly reduced. According to a 2025 survey of over 20,000 U.S. workers, at least half of all tasks are already automated in more than 15% of American employment, roughly 23 million jobs where automation has already crossed the majority threshold. And this isn't hitting only entry-level or routine work. Employment for software developers aged 22 to 25 has dropped by about 20% compared to its late 2022 peak, right as AI coding tools became genuinely capable. The speed of this change is what makes it fundamentally different from previous technological revolutions. The shift from agriculture to industry took generations. The move from industry to services took decades. The shift from human labor toward AI is happening in years, and that pace leaves very little time for workers to adapt or for societies to prepare. Here's where the story gets more complicated than the doom and gloom headlines suggest. The World Economic Forum's most cited projection estimates that by 2030, AI and related technologies will displace roughly 92 million existing jobs globally, but will also create approximately 170 million new ones, for a net global gain of about 6 to 8 million jobs. On paper, that sounds almost reassuring. It isn't. That net positive number is a global aggregate that completely hides the real problem. The person losing their job as a bank teller or data entry clerk is almost never the same person qualified to fill a new role in AI systems engineering or data science. The 92 million people being displaced are disproportionately clerical workers, administrative assistants, cashiers, and bank tellers, while the 170 million new roles skew heavily toward technical, digital native skill sets. The gap between those two groups isn't a jobs crisis in the traditional sense. It's a reskilling crisis, and closing it is now one of the most urgent and least solved operational challenges facing employers, governments, and workers everywhere. The skills gap itself is widening dramatically. The World Economic Forum expects nearly 39% of workers' core skills to change entirely by 2030. The jobs of the future demand advanced digital literacy, data analysis, creative problem solving, and emotional intelligence, skills that a huge share of the current workforce simply hasn't been trained in. And the market is already pricing this gap. Workers with verified AI skills are commanding wage premiums of up to 56% higher than their peers without them, according to industry research from 2025 and 2026. That premium sounds like an opportunity, but it's really a warning sign. It means the market is already sorting workers into winners and losers based on a skill most people haven't had the chance to learn. Traditional education systems are struggling badly to keep pace with the speed of this technological change, and reskilling programs, where they exist at all, are often far too small in scale and inconsistent in quality to meet the size of the problem. One recent industry survey of business leaders found that while 85% say adapting quickly is critical to their organization's survival, only 7% actually believe they're succeeding at it. A striking admission of just how unprepared even the companies driving this transition really are. The economic and social consequences of all this are profound, and they're not abstract. Unemployment, underemployment, and declining living standards for large segments of the population are already creating political instability and social tension in multiple countries. The divide between people who can work productively alongside AI and people who cannot is quickly becoming one of the defining inequalities of our time, arguably more consequential than the traditional divides between industries or even income brackets, because it cuts across every sector at once. And behind the statistics are real human stories. Workers over 45 displaced by automation often face extended stretches of unemployment, frequently lacking the digital skills or updated credentials needed to pivot quickly into new roles. And researchers have documented rising rates of anxiety, depression, and even substance abuse in communities hit hardest by automation-driven job losses. This isn't contained to individuals, either. Small businesses that depended on displaced workers as customers suffer too, creating cascading economic effects across entire local economies, particularly in towns where a single industry or employer used to dominate. Governments are responding with a range of strategies, none of which have proven sufficient on their own. Some are investing heavily in education and retraining programs. Others are seriously exploring universal basic income or other forms of direct social support as a backstop for workers who simply can't reskill fast enough. But the scale of this challenge is so large that no single policy lever currently on the table looks capable of solving it by itself. The World Economic Forum has laid out several possible futures for how this could play out by 2030, from a co-pilot economy where AI progress is gradual enough for workers and institutions to adapt, all the way to what researchers bluntly call the age of displacement, where automation outpaces the capacity of education and reskilling systems to respond at all, driving rising unemployment, widening inequality, and mounting instability. Which future we actually get depends heavily on decisions being made right now, not in some distant future. Companies are facing their own version of this dilemma. AI promises real efficiency gains and lower costs, and more than half of business executives globally now expect the technology to displace jobs at their own companies. But the social and political backlash from visible, large-scale unemployment could create entirely new risks for those same businesses, reputational, regulatory, and political risks that don't show up on a balance sheet until they suddenly do. The ethical questions underneath all of this are equally complex and largely unresolved. Is it acceptable for companies to replace human workers with AI systems even when it produces widespread hardship for the communities those companies operate in? What responsibility, if any, do they carry toward the societies that made their success possible in the first place? There's no settled answer to either question yet, and that uncertainty itself is part of what makes this moment so volatile. The great reskilling crisis forces us to confront some genuinely fundamental questions about the purpose of work, the distribution of wealth, and the role technology should play in human society. Are we building a future where technology serves humanity, or one where humanity increasingly has to serve the technology it built? The coming years will determine whether we can manage this transition in a way that benefits the majority of people going through it, or whether we end up with deeper inequality, social unrest, and political extremism as millions of capable people are left behind. Not because there weren't enough jobs, but because there wasn't enough time, investment, or honesty about the gap between the two. This isn't just an economic story, it's a story about human dignity and purpose in an age of genuinely intelligent machines, and it's arguably the defining challenge of our generation. What do you think? Can reskilling actually happen fast enough to close this gap, or are we already behind in a race most people don't even know is happening? Let me know in the comments, and if this helped you understand what's really at stake, subscribe, because this story is moving faster than most people realize.